Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here today. I wanted to share with you a very personal story, one that many of my friends and family members might not even know. So I grew up in Southern California, and every 4 years, me and my parents would sit in front of a couch and we would watch the Olympics. Now, it wasn't the Summer Olympics that really caught our attention. It was actually the Winter Olympics because of this sport, figure skating. Now, how many of you love watching figure skating? All right, good. And I was thinking back to this point of like, why? What was it about figure skating that made me and my parents so enthralled in it? And I think one of the reasons was because of these two individuals. So Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan. These were two Asian American females who not only were at the top of their sport, but they also were people, role models that us as Asians growing up in the United States could really look up to. The Olympics, every 4 years, turned into more than just watching that particular competition. I then started watching every year the World Championships, the Europeans, Skate America. And I would watch both amateur competitions as well as professional competitions. It didn't stop there. I became really fascinated with so many different of the routines, and I started mimicking them. And I started every arm gesture, every sort of hand movement. I became so into it that I started copying them. And not only that, I started doing the jumps as well. And so whether it was an axel, a lutz, or even a loop, I would, on my carpet of my living room floor, I would throw myself in the air and land, not on 2 feet, but gracefully on one. As I watched more and more figure skating, I realized there's so much more to this sport. It wasn't just about the jumps alone that I know many of us are fascinated with, but it was the combination of technical precision and artistic impression. What really made performances amazing were the lines, the jumps, of course, but the speed and the interpretation of music to the choreography, to the music. And you could really tell, after watching as much as I did, the difference between good versus great. This all came to a point in 1994. In 1994, I don't know if many of you remember, but it was the Lillehammer Olympics. This was a very special year for figure skating because it was one of the first years that they allowed amateurs professionals to reinstate as amateurs. So names like Brian Boitano, Katarina Witt, Kurt Browning, some of the ice skating greats were allowed to come back and compete on the world stage. Now, what I wasn't aware of was this amazing couple. It was a Russian figure skating couple named Ekaterina Gordieva and Sergei Grinkov. I remember sitting there in the living room floor watching the Paris Figure Skating Championship, and the song Moonlight Sonata started playing. And first of all, they're just stunning to look at. And every single movement, every single glide across the ice, every single side-by-side jump or throw or lift was just pure perfection. I was completely captivated by them. And so when I saw this performance, I needed to record it, and so I watched it over and over and over again. But that wasn't the end of it. I needed to see more. And so I started collecting all of their routines. So whether it was Out of Tears from Rolling Stones or Porgy and Bess, the soundtrack that they skated to, or Rachmaninoff's Vocalise, that was inspired. Every movement was inspired by Rodin's sculptures. Every single routine I needed to have. Not only that, I needed every song too. And I wanted the exact cut that they skated to. Because I would put, this is back in the day, I would put it in my CD player and I would listen to it. And in my head, I would go through each of the movements one by one. It didn't end there. I, of course, joined their international fan club and was an active member. I answered all the questions that anyone had on the forum. This is back in the days when we had forums, like web forums, that would ask all these questions about the couple. I traded tapes. Craigslist, eBay. If someone didn't have a particular routine that I had, I would send it to them. If I didn't have it, I would actually want and ask for it. Even more embarrassing, maybe the most embarrassing of all, my AOL screen name was named after them. And just to get you a flavor, I asked my mom and my aunt to go back to my childhood bedroom, take out all the different tapes I had of Gordeev and Greenkopf to take a picture for this particular event. So these are, if you can tell, 6 to 8 hours worth of EP or SP, depending on how well you recorded the tape, of all their routines from when they were very, very young all the way to the Olympics. Not only that, of course, all the performances they went on Stars on Ice, I went to, sat front row, and needed to be there at all times. It was pretty crazy. But I realized that I wasn't just in love with their skating, which was, it really showed me artistry and beauty, but I became enthralled with their love story. I was completely and utterly obsessed. Now, in 1995, in Lake Placid, New York, Lake Placid is always the first site that they practice for the Stars on Ice tour. And so they were practicing, and Sergei had just completed a lift and gently put Katya, as she was known for, Katya down on the ice, and then slowly crouched down. He ended up passing away. At the age of 27, Sergei Greenkopf died. I was 14 years old at the time. I had just fallen in love with their love and understood what true love really meant and what I wanted my true love to be. And now I was, a year later, experiencing death for the first time. I mourned. I locked myself in my parents' bedroom and watched all their performances one by one. And I cried, and I felt like I too lost my own partner. A year later, Katya came back with resilience, with strength, with grace. And I remember reading every single interview that she went through and how she coped with understanding what it was like to lose a loved one. And it was in her resilience, strength, and grace that I too learned resilience, strength, and grace. Now, I know what you might think. It's been a little bit crazy. I was really, really obsessed. And I remember my friends coming up to me and saying, oh, it's so nice that you're so passionate about figure skating. But to me, it wasn't passion. It was obsession. And so I started looking up online, like, what is the difference? What are the key differences between passion versus obsession? And I remember reading these blogs and these web posts that said, passion is all about expansive and opening and, inviting people in, versus obsession. It has such a negative connotation. It's so constricting and isolating, and, the behaviors are so bad because it's all about you, and what you're into. I even saw a blog post that said, obsession is actually passion minus love. And I thought to myself, this cannot be true. Obsession cannot be about passion without love, because I think about my experiences, and there is no way that I could have felt the things I felt or learned the things I learned had I not had this obsession. And so I'm very lucky to work at a place that not only searches and looks for people who are as obsessive as I am, but the things that we do, the processes that we actually go through, we look for people who are just as obsessive, as inspiration, and as informative as information. Because we think people who have obsessions can articulate things that some people in the core might not be able to articulate. In order to learn about dexterity, we talk to watch masters. And we watch them sort of use their hands and the tools along with their hands. To learn about energy, we actually talk to people who are completely off the grid, People who did not believe in using sort of normal energy, but wanted to keep the energy within their own community. And they would share energy and generate new energy through their bicycle. And to learn about beauty and aging, we talked to makeup special artists who, with the use of a brush and makeup, was able to transform our 23-year-old coworker, Kaho, into an 88-year-old grandmother, just by understanding where the lines of her face naturally go. These are naturally passionate and obsessive people that have something to offer in the world. Obsession is powerful. Obsession is informative, and obsession is inspirational. And so when I want to turn this back to you, and I'm not going to ask you, what are you passionate about? Because I feel like that gets asked over and over again. I want to know, what are you obsessed about? Because when you find an obsession, keep it, savor it, treasure it, because you never know what you're going to learn from it, and it just might change your life, as it did for me. Thank you very much.